Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and you join me here. We're back in Point Lookout at the Lighthouse. So, there's a couple of things in here that I want to talk about. It's obviously a location that you do go to as part of the main plot of Point Lookout, but there's definitely some very interesting things to find out. So, the Lighthouse is here, kind of just off the coast and sort of directly south of the Calvert Mansion. I've just had to run through the kind of end of the DLC so that I could get access to this place. But there's a couple of things to talk about. So, first of all, the lighthouse itself. Not really a surprise to find a lighthouse here. We're right on the coast, and the region is, there's a lot of kind of rocks and things that ships could run aground on. So, having a lighthouse to alert people, hey, by the way, there's land here, makes sense. But they also make good tourist locations, and this lighthouse here clearly was, because if we look, we'll ignore the hole in the floor for the time being, but we can see, well, you had like a shovel or something, but if we make our way up the spiral staircase inside, there's skeletons with cameras littered about the place, and there's more as we kind of make our way up top. It does take a minute, it's quite a tall thing, but yeah, here's more skeletons with cameras. We bet that they were tourists who were visiting the place and then died here. We've got another one up here at a book. There's a pilot light for some reason. I don't know where that came from, that's a bit strange. And yeah, there's another skeleton with a camera, and then we can come up. We're right up at the very top now, so if it wasn't so misty here, we probably would have a nice view. But there's also a wee bit more up that we can go to the light part of the lighthouse. So there's a note here, there's a radio, because people obviously would kind of tend to the lighthouse and things, so they would have supplies and teddy bear for company. Managing a lighthouse is a bit of an isolating job, but there's a holotape note here which is very interesting, so we're going to have a look at that. So Blue couldn't raise you on the phone this morning, so I'm having Jenny bring you this note. Your delivery for the store got turned around on those new roads and had an accident. He's run off the road by the cathedral. They'll need some time to sort things out, but Pagano probably won't want to wait that long to replace the lighthouse beacon bulbs. You might want to get over to the wreck yourself and hand deliver the bulbs. So that's telling us that there was supposed to be a delivery of new bulbs for the lighthouse, and it got waylaid and ended up off the road. Or you can see the birds circling from here, and we can obviously see that this light bulb is broken. So you do have the option of doing something about that. So if we head to, where's the cathedral? Let me find, we really want the kind of road. I think that's it there. Yep, there I can see the crash barrier things. Yeah, so if we make our way down to where the road was, and we can see we've got an overturned truck right here, and there we go, truck wreckage. That's exactly what we're looking for. So we can see there was a bunch of stuff here, tools and things, a lot of broken light bulbs, mannequin heads, more broken light bulbs and empty bottles and various other things, but there is one intact lighthouse bulb, just one, which is nice. So, that's obviously was supposed to happen, and then nobody did anything about it, because presumably that's when the bombs fell and lots of people died and it was all terrible. So, now that we have that, we can head back to the lighthouse. And we'll have to traipse all the way up the stairs again, but that's okay. Because we can fix the lighthouse and we can make it work, which is kind of fun. There's no reward for doing this at all. There's no, you don't even get experience points for doing it. It's just a fun little thing that you're allowed to do. and it gives you a bit of atmosphere and stuff. It's quite fun to see the lighthouse all properly lit up. You know, they're common installations in coastal regions. They're quite common in the coast here in the UK as well, because, you know, they do help prevent ships kind of running aground and things, especially before we had a lot of kind of GPS and satellite navigation and all that kind of thing. But yes, we can replace the bulb, and then it says the other bulb is broken, but you can only do that once. Don't look directly at it, it's very bright, but there we go, now the lighthouse is working. So I say it's kind of pointless. It's mainly just for the for the fun of it. If you want to, you know, replace the bulb and get the lighthouse working, then it's a nice thing to do. But yeah, the more interesting part of this location is what's underneath the lighthouse. So obviously we did see there was a big hole in the floor, and if you've played the DLC, you know this is where you end up at the very end of the kind of main quest line of Point Lookout, when you're dealing with Desmond and Professor Calvert. So Professor Calvert, obviously the mansion was his family home as well, and this location is related to him and his brother, who was actually a senator. So let's head in here. So welcome to St Albans Medical Facility. So this is a medical research facility that's hidden kind of underground and under the ocean. So there's a lot to find in here actually as well. So we've got ammo boxes, and you know, there's laser weapons, Gatling lasers, all sorts of stuff here. Tons of useful loot if you make your way through this place. But the research that they were doing here is very interesting. Oh, crap, that's it. Never mind. Are you a good terminal? You're a good terminal. Okay. It's just for the turrets anyway. Yeah, so there was a security system, but me and Desmond kind of cleared it out. That's just a toilet. Fair enough. You do find mesmetron power cells dotted about this place as well. Storage closet. I kind of hear running water in here. Oh, pencils. So yeah, if you're in the market for some pencils, there's a lot of pencils here. This is the first terminal that we are looking for. So there's quite a few interesting things that happened in this location. So what were they doing here research wise? They were basically expanding on the experiments that were done by General Atomics when they were developing the RoboBrains. We did talk in depth about the creation of the RoboBrains and the facility in Boston where the RoboBrains were first developed. I'll link to that video in the Robotics Expert series. But part of that process was obviously extracting the brains and putting them into this biomed gel. So the research here was to kind of improve the success of that process, and as we talked about in the RoboBrain video, the success rate wasn't really perfect. Some brains actually sustained damage when being extracted and didn't work for various reasons. So the research here was to try and improve the success of that for extracting and isolating the human brains. And they discovered something quite remarkable. So when you're dealing with Professor Calvert, he can talk to you in your head. So basically by altering the mixture of the biomed gel that the brains were put in, they could ensure the brain retained its full mental capacity, although perhaps not for the long term, forever. But it was more than that they could make it so that the brain could project images and thoughts into others. So that telepathy, essentially, you know, psychic powers. And Professor Calvert was sent here to head up the research by his brother, who was a senator, and Senator Calvert demanded a report, even though the research was still in the very early stages. And the scientists agreed that kind of much more work needed to be done before this work could be implemented in any kind of meaningful way. But at some point, Professor Calvert had his own brain extracted so that he could survive and get psychic abilities. and he had a 200-year-old rivalry with Desmond Lockhart, who ended up becoming a ghoul, and you get caught between the two of them, and that's how you end up gaining access to this facility. But we're here to talk about what went on pre-war in this place, because there's quite a bit to it, beyond Calvert and Desmond's 200-year-old beef. There's several terminals that we can take a look at that highlight some interesting issues between the employees in this facility. So this is the first one here. So this is kind of the archive room. You can see the kind of microfiche viewers and things. And this terminal belongs to someone called Adam Tomko. So there's a couple of emails basically that he sent. So this is the first one that he sent to Dr. Laura Stewart, who's the head researcher, and Adam here is the archivist. So I hate to be a bother, but it happened again. Records 48, 51 and 55 are missing. I know it was Danielson and Peruto. I know it. They were always messing with me, and no matter how many reports I file, they're never disciplined. And they both know it's because Danielson's uncle is married to Senator Calvert's daughter. So he's asking if she can't do something about it, because he's fed up and he's getting stressed, and he's blaming nepotism for it, which may or may not be the case. It probably is, because the senator is involved in this facility, so it could be quite easy for him to let someone that's kind of related to him by marriage or whatever to get away with things. So he sent this complaint to the head researcher. Then the other message is from an unknown sender who is angry that he's been tattled on. So it's almost certainly one of the two people that he was complaining about. And sent a nice little threatening message where we'll see how funny it is for you when you're out on the street looking for work. You tattled on the wrong guy. So he's obviously bitter that somebody's complained about him messing about with records and things like that, and is threatening to get the guy fired, which, it's not an uncommon thing. People sometimes do these things, but it's most likely this message came from Danielson just because of the situation and the context of the previous message. That's what makes the most sense to me, and he's involved with Senator Calvert. But it's kind of an immature way to handle the situation, because this is a scientific facility. It's not high school. But yeah, so then we've got Dr. Stewart's terminal, which I think should be this one. Yeah. So this is the head researcher's office. Anything interesting? We've got some more cameras. There's plenty of cameras in this place as well, which is always fun. Right, let's have a look at Dr. Stewart's terminal. So there's a couple of things that are quite interesting here. So obviously we know this facility was built kind of underground and under the ocean to a degree, and Dr. Stewart had some concerns about the facility itself, that it was built to withstand the sub-oceanic earthen construction. That's a bit of a mouthful. But there's concerns about the integrity of the building. There's some leaks without a logical source, and people are a bit nervous, because obviously if they're in a construction that's under the ocean and it springs a leak and then collapses, then everybody drowns. So, fair enough. So they're all a bit concerned about the leaks. They've been assured that the place will keep running for hundreds of years, but she's not trusting that and is looking for an independent evaluation of the facility just to be on the safe side. It's not clear if this happens or not, but obviously this is something that she's kind of raised with her superiors. But the place is still standing, at least. So that's something. But yeah, we've got a couple of other things. So a memo here about the test subjects. So all level 7 assistants. It's been brought to my attention that a number of you have been conversing with test subjects during your off hours. This is a reminder that any attempts at social engagement with clinical participants is a violation of Facility Rule 47. Social interaction interferes with the cerebral infusion and can cause a number of potential problems once the procedure reaches completion. So once again, do not speak to participants and be sure to limit any internal monologue to the list found in section 2.3 of your procedure guides when in their presence. I have little patience for shenaniganery. So, yeah, basically, you're not supposed to have conversations with the test subjects, and you keep your internal monologue on the approved list of things that you're allowed to think about. Because we know that, sort of psychic, telepathic abilities are part of this research, so even what you're thinking has to be controlled, I guess. But I really do love and enjoy the use of shenaniganery here. That's a word that I'd never heard of it before. I know shenanigans, but I didn't know this word existed until I read this. It is spelled wrong, so that last E isn't supposed to be there according to Word Hippo, which is my go-to online dictionary and thesaurus as an author. But I do love this word, and I'm going to be adding it to my vocabulary for sure. So shenaniganery is is a great word. So this is obviously something that people, because in any other kind of clinical setting, people, especially, care assistants and nursing kind of people, they're going to chat to patients and things to put them at ease, but apparently that's not allowed here, unsurprisingly, in this kind of universe. And then there's this notice to staff, which is a memo about authorised archive technicians accessing the microfiche library. Records have gone missing and she wants them returned. No questions will be asked if they're returned within 48 hours, and people should find better ways to amuse themselves because they've got work to do. So likelihood is that this is a response to Adam Tomko's complaints about records being taken for a so-called joke. But instead of actually talking to the people behind it, we're just going to do this kind of half-arsed management tactic that probably won't change anything. So yeah. That's the thing, is instead of them actually, speaking to the people that are causing problems, we're just going to send a passive-aggressive memo and leave it at that. So yeah, you can have a good look around. There's more Mesmertron power cells and various bits and pieces of scientific equipment, exactly what you would expect to see. And then we've got another terminal in here, so this is obviously some kind of procedure room with that chair and the operating light and things. So let's see. Yeah, so this is the lab terminal, which has some interesting notes about the research results. So, taking data from General Atomics with the RoboBrain project, and they've mimicked the brain suspension and isolation technique, but they've made some advances and manipulating the composition of the gel, producing effects thought impossible. Under the right conditions, the subject retains full mental capacity and can project images and thoughts to other minds when the correct conditions are introduced in the biomed suspension. The details are in Archive 51, Section B, which is one of the ones that was stolen, actually, interestingly. And it's got profound implications for battlefield technology and criminal interrogation, so it could be used to make people confess or prove people are lying, I guess, other horrific things potentially. But they do wonder if the years of isolation in the biogel would start causing some psychological abnormalities and potentially causing some problems with psychological effects. And we do kind of see that, because when you're looking at the brains, the think tank and Old World Blues and Dr. Mobius, that they are definitely showing some signs of kind of degeneration in their nervous system. It is something that's, that's noted, and same goes for some of the RoboBrains, that kind of thing. So yeah, very interesting. And then we've got this one here, which is about an oversight review. So the research is still in its early stages, which is a concern. But the senator is demanding a full report, and he is sending his brother, Professor Calvert, to the lab to get involved in the study and help with the report. But the author of this we're not sure who it is reluctant to share it outside the lab because it's still in the very early stages, and it's going to be quite a long time before that they have the ability to implement this research in any way. So he's hoping to maybe put off the professor's arrival for a bit longer so that they can get some more conclusions and get some more actual data and things. But that doesn't seem to happen. And then the broadcasting technology is obviously something that Professor Calvert made use of. So that's how he was communicating with the Jackson, the tribal leader, in his cave. He was able to project basically to that little cave. But yeah, there's a few robo-brains dotted about here. Not a huge surprise given that they were following up on the research on the robo-brains, so they would potentially have some of them around. We can make our way down, and this looks like a operating theatre, so prepared to guess this might be where brain extraction was carried out. A bit of a messy business sometimes. We've got some bathrooms. This is like a little kind of clinic. So there's a ton of good loot in this place. You know, you've got lots of medical supplies and things. Earnings clipboard on a hospital bed. Skeleton. Some medics and a blood pack, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, kind of the things that you would expect for a creepy medical research facility. You know, a bunch of supplies and stuff here as well, presumably for keeping the subjects under control. And then we had these cells, basically. These are rooms where obviously their test subjects were kept. And some of them died here. Very creepy. What am I tripping over? Oh. Yeah. And then obviously you come into this room, and this is where Calvert was. So his brain is probably lying on the ground somewhere. Oh yeah, this is the way out here. And there is some unique loot in this place. So obviously got loads of microfusion cells. There's workbench, microwave emitter, which is like a unique variant of the mesmatron. And a bunch of stuff. But I think we can head down another level to find. Yep, broken robo brain. More stuff. There he is. There's Professor Calvert's brain, which we destroyed. Yeah, a bunch of protectrons as well. Because that's what happens when you come in to fight him, is that he activates all these protectrons and things. So yeah, it's very, very interesting, and obviously it gives us sort of documented evidence of essentially them being able to create psychic powers in someone, which is definitely far into the realms of science fiction, at least with our current knowledge of the way the world works. So it's, yeah, very, very interesting to see this, and it's pretty cool, and it's not something that's new in Fallout either. Something to bear in mind that, you know, while there's not a lot of kind of supernatural elements in Fallout, it is more on the sci-fi side of things, but there are a few throughout the games. And if you remember in the first game, the Master actually gains psychic abilities as part of his mutations, especially when he started absorbing people and all that kind of thing. You know, he had a lot of different things, but one of the things was that he did develop some psychic abilities. And he also did some experiments that created 4 people with psychic abilities, and they are named Wiggum, Gideon, Lucy, and Moore, and they were known as the Psychers. So you can even get them to give you a nullifier that will protect you from the master psychic attacks when you go to fight them in Fallout. So, you know, it's not a huge amount of kind of supernatural stuff, but it is sprinkled in there, and I think that keeps things interesting as well, because obviously, you know, technology and things is very different in the Fallout universe. It's not too far outside the realm of possibility that there are some things that could result in, you know, giving these kinds of abilities to someone. So, yeah, it's a very interesting location. I find the fact that it's literally tiled, like floor, ceiling, and all the walls and everything, and the doors. It does make it feel quite creepy, but also quite unique, which I like. It's, I mean, the whole thing is really interesting, this DLC. I think the main story is really interesting, and it's been a lot of fun, you know, looking up these locations and learning about all these different locations that... The hell was that? Somebody is shooting at me. And I can't see who it is. Okay. That's just plain rude. Is it the smugglers or the lighthouse? It could be. Yeah, once you've kind of completed the DLC, there are smugglers that move in to the lighthouse and stay at the very top, so I wonder if that's who's shooting at me. Or if that's a scripted thing, because I've got combat AI turned off, so... I don't know. That was a bit weird. Anyway, there it goes. Lighthouse actually working properly, which is nice. So yeah, that is the Point Lookout Lighthouse and St Albans Medical Facility, which is the secret medical research facility hidden underneath. It doesn't sound like the test subjects had a great time, similar to the test subjects they used for the RoboBrain project in the first place. Oh, very creepy and weird, but I do have an in-depth video about the RoboBrain, so if you do want to learn more about that, then I'll link it for you and you can check it out. As always, I love to hear what you think. I'm really enjoying kind of digging into all the locations and things in Point Lookout, because it's definitely a DLC that deserves some love and appreciation. So hopefully you are enjoying it, taking this journey with me, and I will catch you guys next time. Right, bye.